Let your body sway, baby, my voice has you gliding. Feel it, whispers in your ear, feel the thrill as they're colliding. Steamy tone, sultry breeze, oh, it's got you mesmerized. Follow the sound, darling, I'll touch you where it tantalizes. Ooh, feel it, baby, nice and slow. Yeah, yeah, I'll let your rhythm consume my soul. Yeah, yeah, ooh, yeah, listen to my song. Yeah, ooh, yeah, listen to my surrender. Now that feels so soft and oh so tender. Need you to ring my bell, baby, yeah. Hear my moans echo in your ear. Feel the tempo rise and promises laid bare. Rise, rise, rise. My voice is calling, voice enthralling. Touch my body, everywhere. Ooh, feel it, baby, nice and slow. Yeah, yeah, I'll let your rhythm consume my soul. Yeah, ooh, yeah, listen to my sweet surrender. Now that feels so soft and oh so tender. So listen close, my love, let my voice take you under. Take you under. Ooh, I make my night explode with thunder. Now that feels so good. Ooh, scream.
Hello, hello. We only have guys tonight. That's really weird.
Sausage fest.
Oh,
I might need that
gosh.
copy of that song to listen to whenever I'm reading a new book I've been reading.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, no, it's welcome by Spice Baby. It's wonderful
Thank
to
you.
have you here tonight.
Honored to be here.
Welcome to the
Well,
crazy.
It does get crazy. It does get crazy. We may have a couple of people come dropping in here shortly. We shall see. You never know what's going to happen with this
And say,
place.
who knows? Maybe Elmo reads some spicy stories and say that's happened before.
Oh yeah, I've heard Elmo getting down and dirty on Tinkerbell. Just saying. Just saying.
Well, I'm not asking questions about that, so.
Oh, you can ask, buddy.
Hey, Chad, how you doing this evening? Welcome everybody to another reading of well, we're on chapter 9. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Yeah, chapter 9. Yeah,
so,
chapter
yeah.
9. This is the Neverbird, and this is the last sound that Peter heard before he was quite alone, where the mermaids retiring one by one to their bed chambers under the sea. Sluts. He was too far away to hear their doors shut. Well, but every door in the coral caves where they live rings a tiny bell when it opens or closes, as in all Nice's houses on the mainland, and he heard the bells. So he was listening to the bells of the mermaids. Sounds hot. Steadily the waters rose, as did Peter, till they were nibbling at his feet. And to pass the time until they made their final gulp, he watched the only thing on the lagoon. He thought it was a piece of floating paper, perhaps part of the kite, and wondered idly how long it would take to drift ashore. Presently he noticed as an odd thing that it was undoubtedly out upon the lagoon with some definite purpose, for it was fighting the tide and sometimes winning. And when it won, Peter, always sympathetic to the weaker side, could not help clapping. It was such a gallant piece of paper. It was not really a piece of paper. It was the Never Bird, making desperate efforts to reach Peter on the nest. By working her wings, work it, baby, in a way that she had learned since the nest fell into the water, she was able to some extent to guide her strange craft. But by the time Peter recognized her, she was very exhausted. I bet she was. She had come to save him, to give him her nest, though there were eggs in it, and I rather wonder at the bird, for though he had been nice to her, he had also sometimes tormented her. I can suppose only that, like Miss Darling and the rest of them, that she was melted because he had all of his first teeth. She called out to him what she had come for. Yeah, but she did. And she called out to her what she was doing there. But of course, neither of them understood the other's language. In fanciful stories, people can talk to birds freely, and I wish for the moment I could pretend that this were such a story and say that Peter replied intelligently to the Never Bird, but truth is best, and I want to tell you only what really happened. Well, not only could they not understand each other, but they forgot their manners. Kaiser.
I want you to get into the nest.
The bird called, speaking as slowly and as distinctly as possible.
And then you can drift ashore. But I am too tired to bring it any nearer, so you must try to swim to it.
Vice baby.
What are you squawking about?
Peter answered.
Why don't you let the nest drift as usual?
I want you.
The bird said and repeated it all over. Then Peter tried slow and distinct.
What are you quacking about?
And so on. The Never Bird became quite irritated. They have very short tempers.
Okay.
Oh, you dunder-headed little jay, she screamed. Why don't you do as I tell you? Peter felt that she was calling him names, and at a venture he retorted hotly.
So are you.
Then rather curiously, they both snapped out the same remark.
Shut up!
Stop!
Nevertheless, the bird was determined to save him if she could, and by one last mighty effort, she propelled the nest against the rock. Then up she flew, deserting her eggs so as to make her meaning quite damn clear. Then at last he understood. Oh, he clutched that nest. He waved his thanks to the bird as she fluttered overhead. It was not to receive his thanks, however, that she hung there in the sky. It was not even to watch him get into the nest. It was to see what he did with her eggs. Look at there he is.
A wild ball storm appears.
Um,
Dun, dun, dun. Well, there were two large white eggs, and Peter lifted them up and reflected. The bird covered her face with her wings so as not to see the last of them, but she could not help peeping between the feathers. I forgot whether I have told you that there was a stave on the rock driven into it by some buccaneers of long ago to mark the site of a buried treasure. The children had discovered the glittering hoard, and when in a mischievous mood, used to fling showers of mortiers, diamonds, and pearls and pieces.
Did you say glittery whore?
Yes, glittery whores.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That you got to sling the glittery whores.
Well, yeah.
Pieces of ate to the gulls, who pounced upon them for food and then flew away, raging at the scurvy trick that had been played upon them. The stave was still there, and on it Starkey had hung his hat, a deep tarpaulin, watertight with broad brim. Peter put the eggs into his hat and set it on the lagoon. It floated beautifully. The Never Bird saw at once what he was up to and screamed her admiration of him. "Oh, you sweet child." And alas, Peter crowed his agreement with her. Then he got into the nest and reared the stave as its mast and hung up his shirt for a sail. At the same moment, the bird fluttered down upon the hat and once more sat snugly on her eggs. She drifted in one direction and he was borne off in another, and they were both cheering quite happily. Of course, when Peter landed, he beached his baroque in a place where the bird would easily find it, but the hat was such a great success that she just said, "Screw this, I'm taking this as a nest," and drifted about till it went into little bitty pieces. And
I'm taking the cows and the kids.
often Starkey came to the shore. I don't know why. Maybe it was the mermaids, and with many bitter feelings, watched the bird sitting on his hat. As we shall not see her again, it may be worth mentioning here that all Neverbirds now build in the shape of a nest with a broad brim, on which the youngsters take an airing. Great were the rejoicings when Peter reached the home under the ground almost as soon as Wendy, who had been carried, oh, so carried. I'm sorry, I saw something that caught my eye. And perhaps the biggest adventure is all that they were several hours late for bed. This was so inflated them that they did various dodgy things to get staying up just a little longer, such as demanding bandages. But Wendy, though glorying in having them all home and safe and sound, was scandalized by the lateness of the hour and cried,
To bed, to bed.
in a voice that had to be obeyed. Next day, however, she was awfully tender, gave out bandages to every one. When they played till bedtime at limping about and carrying their arms in slings, on to the happy home. Would you like to take over for a little bit, Vice Baby?
An important result of the bush on the lagoon was that it made the Redskins their friends. Peter
And
had saved Peter had saved Tiger Lily from a dreadful fate, and now there was nothing she and her braves would not do for him. All night they sat above, keeping watch over the home under the ground and waiting the big attack by the pirates, which obviously could not be much longer delayed. Even by day they hung about, smoking the pipe of peace and looking almost as if they wanted tidbits to eat.
I'm sure they were smoking that peace pipe. That's what
That's
they call
right.
it.
A little puff puff pass.
Bow now,
bro.
wow now, wow now.
They called Peter the Great White Father, Gandalf, prostrating themselves before him. And he liked this tremendously, so that it was not really good for him. "The Great White Father," he would say to them in a very lordy manner, as they groveled at his feet, "is glad to see the Pickaninny warriors protecting his wigwam from the pirates." Ricky Reno, who's this?
Go ahead, Kaiser.
Oh, you okay? Lord. Is this actually her or just I don't know?
No, it's
Never
just one of the kids. Just use any voice.
mind. Okay. Me, Tiger Lily. Hello, Mr. Neighbors.
That lovely creature would reply.
Oh God, I lost my voice. Anyway, I was
there at
too
the
laughing
top.
too hard. Yeah.
Right there at the top.
Peter Pan, save me, his very nice friend. Me no let pirates hurt him.
She was far too pretty to cringe in this way, but Peter thought it his due, and he would answer condescendingly. It is good. Peter Pan has spoken. Always when he said, Peter Pan has spoken, it meant that they must now shut up, and they accepted it humbly in that spirit. But they were by no means so respectful to the other boys, whom they looked upon as just ordinary braves. They said
How do?
to them,
Do you do?
and things like that. And what annoyed the boys was that Peter seemed to think this all right. Secretly, Wendy sympathized with them a little, but she was far too loyal a housewife to listen to any complaints against father.
Father knows best.
She always said. Whatever her private opinion must be. Her private opinion was that the Redskins should not call her a squaw.
All
Yes,
right,
now-
slut. Get over here and make me some beans and pork.
Get that bitch ass back in the kitchen and make me some pie.
We now have reached the evening that was to be known among them as the Night of Nights because of its adventures and their upshot. The day, as it was quietly gathering its forces, had been almost uneventful, and now the Redskins in their blankets were at their post above, while below the children were having their evening meal, all except Peter, who had gone out to get the time. The way you got the time on the island was to find the crocodile and then stay near him till the clock struck. The meal happened to be a make-believe tea, and they sat around the board guzzling in their greed, and really, what with their chatter and recriminations, the noise, as Wendy said, was positively deafening. To be sure, she did not mind the noise, but she simply would not have them grabbing things, and then excusing themselves by saying that Toodles had pushed their elbow. There was a fixed rule that they must never hit back at meals, but should refer the matter of dispute to Wendy by raising the right arm politely and saying,
I complain of so and so.
but what usually happened was they forgot to do this or did it too much.
Silence!
Cried Wendy, when for the 20th time she had told them that they are not all to speak at once.
Is your mug empty, slightly, darling?
Not quite empty, Mummy.
Lightly said, after looking into an imaginary mug.
He hasn't even begun to drink his milk.
Oops interposed. This was telling, and slightly seized his chance.
I complain of Gibbs.
He cried promptly. John, however, had held up his hand first.
Fist.
Fist in the air.
Oh, well done.
Oh, God.
May I sit Pete's chairs? He's not here.
Sit in father's chair, John.
Wendy has scandalized.
Certainly not.
He's not really our father, John answered. He didn't even know how a father does till I showed him. This was grumbling,
We complain of John.
cried the twins. Toodles held up his hand. He was so much the humblest of them. Indeed, he was the only humble one that Wendy was specially gentle with him.
Fallstorm.
I don't suppose that I
Toodles.
could be father.
Toodles
No,
said
Toodles.
differently. uh, once
No,
Toodles be-
Toodles.
once Toodles began, which was not very often, he had a silly way of going on.
As I can't be father,
He said heavily.
I don't suppose, Michael, you would let me be baby.
No, I won't.
Knocked out, he was already in his basket.
As I can't be baby,
Toodles said, getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
do you think I could be a twin?
No, indeed.
Replied the twins.
It's awfully difficult to be a twin.
Well, as I can't be anything important,
Said Toodles.
would any of you like to see me do a trick?
No.
They all replied. Then, at last, he stopped.
I hadn't really any hope.
He said. The hateful telling broke out again.
Slightly coughing on the table.
The
The
twins
twin began with the cheesecakes.
Curly's talking about butter and honey.
Nibs is
This is
sticking with his
speaking with his
mouth.
mouth.
I complain of the twins.
I could play with Curly.
I can play of nibs. Oh dear, oh dear.
Wendy,
I'm sure I sometimes think that spinsters ought to be envied.
he told him to clear away and sat down to her work basket, a heavy load of stockings, and every knee with a hole in it, as usual.
I wonder why that hole was there.
I don't want to know why that hole was there.
I don't feel so good.
Oh, Lord.
Wendy,
Did Michael?
I'm too big for a cradle.
I must have somebody to cradle.
He said almost tartly.
And you're the littlest. A cradle is such a nice, homely thing to have around the house.
While she sewed, they played around her. Such a group of happy faces and dancing limbs lit up by that romantic fire.
La 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 la.
La, 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 la.
It had become a very familiar scene, this in the home under the ground. But we are looking on it for the last time.
Oh, thank God.
There was a step above, and Wendy, you may be sure, was the first to recognize it.
Children, I hear your father's step. He likes you to meet him at the door.
Of the Redskins crouched before Peter.
Watch as well, braves, I have spoken.
Then, as so often before, the gay children bragged
Knew it.
him from his tree.
I knew it.
As so often before, but never again.
Yep, there it is.
They were gay.
Mm.
He had brought nuts for the boys, as well as the correct time for Wendy.
Peter, it's like you just spoil him,
Wendy simpered,
Oh, lady.
said Peter, hanging up his gun.
It was me that told him mother's a cold old lady.
Michael whispered to Curly.
I complain of Michael.
Nearly instantly. The first twin came to Peter,
Father, we want to dance.
Dance away, my little man.
said Peter, who was
Who is
high
in?
good humor.
But we want you to dance.
Peter was really the best dancer among them, but he pretended to be scandalized, just like the
Oh.
Olympic breakdancer.
Hold me. My old bones, I would rattle.
And Mommy too.
What?
Cried Wendy.
The mother of such an armful dance?
But on Saturday night,
Lily insinuated. It was not really Saturday night. At least, it may have been, for they have long lost count of the days. But always, if they wanted to do anything special, they said it was Saturday night, and then they did it.
Of course, it's Saturday night, Peter.
Wendy said, relenting.
Oh, people forget all figure, Wendy, you little slutbag.
But it's only among your own progeny.
Oh, true, how true.
No, they were told they could dance, but they must put on their nighties first.
Old lady.
Peter said, aside to Wendy, warming himself by the fire and looking down at her as she sat turning a heel.
Oh, you're looking pretty good right now. How about I crack you open like a shotgun and pound you like... I mean, there's nothing more pleasant of an evening for you and me when the day's toil is over than to rest by the fire with you splayed out and just begging for more, with the little ones just hanging around nearby there.
It is sweet, Peter, isn't it?
Wendy said, frightfully gratified.
Peter, I think Coily has you now.
Oh, Michael takes after you.
She went to him and put her hands on his shoulder.
Dear Peter,
She said,
with such a large family, of course, I have now passed my best. But you don't want to change me, do you?
Hell no, Wendy. I want to just bend you over and crack a few beers and splay you out like a dirty little slut. I mean, certainly not.
certainly, he did not want to change, but he looked at her uncomfortably, blinking, like one not sure whether he was awake or asleep.
Peter, what is it?
Well, I was just thinking, you little whore of a woman, maybe we need to bring some more women into this here Das Smile. We can maybe get a little bit of fun going on. I'm talking like daddy needs a little more loving than what you're starting to get older. I mean, it's only make believe, isn't it? That I'm their father, right? Huh? Only make believe.
You are the father.
Said, a little scared.
I don't even know where we are anymore.
You're right. Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Well, you see, it would make me seem so old to be their real father, and well, I'm not really that old. I mean, you're getting there. I can see the gray hair, sort of, I don't know,
But they are
ours.
ours, Peter, yours and mine.
Oh, but not really, Wendy. I mean, you didn't really spread your legs for me. It could have been any guy.
Said anxiously.
No, not if you don't wish it.
She replied, and she distinctly heard his sigh of relief.
Peter,
He asked, trying to speak firmly.
what are your exact feelings for me?
Oh, I want to just open you up. I mean, those of a devoted son, yeah. Don't like stepson. You mind climbing into the washer and getting stuck again, Wendy?
I thought so.
She said, and went and sat by herself at the extreme end of the room if she wanted a divorce.
Woman, you're so queer.
Told you.
He
And
said,
Tiger Lily.
frankly
Tiger
puzzled.
Lily. Tiger Lily is just the same. There's something she wants to do to me. And I don't understand why she's doing these things. She comes up and she starts fondling the little grapes, and then she's like, "Come on, Peter, don't you want to do something to me? Are you little Tiger Lily? I don't understand what she's doing." But she says it's not my mother.
No, indeed, it's not.
He replied with frightful emphasis. Now we know why she was prejudiced against the Redskins.
Oh, then what is it?
Oh, Lord.
It isn't for a lady to tell.
Oh, very well.
Said, a little nettled.
Perhaps Tinkerbell will tell me. She's a little slut anyway.
Oh, yes, Tinkerbell would tell you.
Wendy resorted scornfully.
She is an abandoned little creature.
Here Tink, who was in her bedroom, eavesdropping, squeaked out something impudent.
She says she glories in being abandoned, a little slut bag.
Peter interpreted. He had a sudden idea.
Hey, perhaps Tink wants to be my stepmother and crawl into the dryer there, maybe under the bed.
You silly ass! Cried Tinkerbell in a passion. She had said it so often that Wendy needed no translation.
I almost agree with her.
Wendy snapped. Fancy Wendy snapping. But she's been much tired, and she little knew whoa, what did my brain just do? But she had
Happens
been
a lot on here.
much tired, and she little knew what was to happen before the night was out. If she had known, she would not have snapped. None of them knew. Perhaps it was best not to know. Their ignorance gave them one more glad hour, and as it was to be their last hour on the island, just let us rejoice that there were 60 glad minutes in it. They sang and danced in their nightgowns. Such a deliciously creepy song it was, in which they pretended to be frightened at their own shadows, little witting that so soon shadows would close in upon them, from whom they would shrink in real fear. So uproaringly gay was the dance, and how they buffeted each other on the bed and out of it. Oh,
That
steamy.
sounds dirty. Why are you buffeting? That is pretty gay.
It was a pillow fight rather than a dance.
Sure. That's what they call it now.
Mom and Dad are just
Pillow.
wrestling. And when it was finished, the pillows insisted on one bout more, like partners who know they may never meet again. The stories they told before it was time for Wendy's good night story.
Even the pillows are dirty in this book.
No, I'm telling you. It's like, oh, just pound me one more time.
I need a fluff.
Even Slightly tried to tell a story that night, but the beginning was so fearfully dull that it appalled not only the others, but himself, and he said gloomingly,
Yes, it was a dull beginning, I say. Let us pretend that is the end.
Then, at last, they all got into bed for Wendy's story. The story they loved best. The story Peter hated. Usually, when she began to tell this story, he left the room or put his hands over his ears, And possibly, if he had done either of those things, this time they might all still be in the island. But tonight he remained on his stool, and we shall see what happened.
Oh, what happened? I'm scrolling. It takes a
It's like,
while.
apparently nothing happened.
No, it got really blank. I was like, what happened? Oh.
The end.
Do you want to take over for a bit there, Ballstorm?
Sure.
Cool.
Oh, we're just gonna go ahead and there. All right.
Did it.
I guess I'm gonna have to do a little bit of voice work.
Your audio is just a little bit low, Kaiser.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have auto volume turned on?
I turned that off because I was afraid that it might interfere. Let me adjust my mic volume up. That better?
Keep going.
All right. I'm at 200%.
All right.
Good.
I mean, I would turn back on the auto volume.
Okay. I was worried it might clip. So.
Nope,
right,
it
hang
won't clip.
There we go. How's that? Better?
Better.
Much better.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, fine.
You're starting out. You're Wendy tonight.
Yeah,
Slut.
apparently. So yeah, we're just gonna have to go with it. Stupid thing. I was just doing the audio volume.
All right, listen then.
Said Wendy, settling down to her story with Michael at her feet and 7 boys in the bed.
So there was once a gentleman.
I'd rather he'd been a lady.
I'm sure you do.
I wish he'd been a white rat.
Quiet.
Their mother admonished them.
There was a lady also, and
Oh, mommy.
Cried the first twin.
You mean there's a lady also, don't you? She's not dead, is she?
oh no.
I'm awfully glad she isn't dead, said Toodles. Are you glad, John?
Nice, baby.
Of course I am.
Are you glad, Nibs?
Rather.
Are you glad, twins?
We are glad.
This is so discombobulated.
Yeah. Just go
I
with it.
swear we need to like find out what all the parts are in the book and like
Just do it.
I know.
Just do
I
it.
know.
Just do it.
Oh dear.
Little noise there.
Peter called out, determined that she should have fair play. However, beastly a story it might be in his opinion.
Okay, so the gentleman's name
Wendy continued.
was Mr. Darling, and her name was Mrs. Darling. Oh, they were both so darling.
Vice, baby. Right there at the top.
I knew them.
John said, to annoy the others.
I think I knew them.
Said Michael, rather doubtfully.
Okay, they were getting married, you know.
Explained Wendy.
And what do you think they had?
White rats.
Cried Nibs, inspired.
No.
It's awfully puzzling, said Toodles, who knew the story by heart.
Quiet Toodles, they had 3 descendants.
What's it, descendants?
Well, you are one, twin.
Did you hear that, John? I'm a descendant.
Descendants are only children.
Oh dear.
Sighed Wendy.
Now, these 3 children had a faithful nurse called Nana, but Mr. Darling was angry with her and chained her up in the yard. Yeah, she was, they were just having a happy time out there. Just so many noises. Anyway, and so other children flew away.
It's an awfully good story, said
They
Nibs.
flew away.
Wendy continued.
Wendy?
Oh, thank
Wendy's
God.
there.
It's Wendy.
Wendy's
Thank
going to
God.
take
Oh,
over
thank
for
goodness.
Kaiser.
Oh, what am I gonna do now?
I know
All
he's
right.
gonna be heartbroken.
You're gonna have to get the other voices.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh, they flew away
Wendy continued.
to the Neverland, where the lost children are.
I just thought they did.
Curly broke in it excitedly.
I don't know how it is, but I just thought they did.
Oh, Wendy, cried Toodles. Was one of the lost children called Toodles?
Yes, he was.
I am in a story. Hurrah! I am in a story, Nibs.
Hush.
No, it's Wendy.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Is it Wendy?
It is-
Oh, hush. Now I want you to consider the feelings of the unhappy parents with all their children flown away.
They all moan, though they were not really considering the feelings of the unhappy parents one jot.
Think of the empty beds.
It's awfully sad.
The first twin said cheerfully.
I don't see how it can have a happy ending.
Said the second twin.
Do you, Nebs? Nebs?
I'm frightfully anxious.
If you only knew how great is a mother's love,
Wendy told them triumphantly.
you would have no fear.
She had now come to the part that Peter hated.
Go ahead. You're up, cut, Paul Storm.
I do like a mother's love, said Toodles,
I bet you
hitting
do.
Nibs with the pillow.
I bet he did.
Do you like a mother's love, Nibs?
I do just,
said Nibs, hitting back.
You see,
Wendy said complacently.
our heroine knew that the mother would always leave the back door, window open for her children to fly back by. So they stayed away for years and had a lovely time.
did he ever go back?
Oh, let us now.
Said Wendy, bracing herself for her finest effort.
Take a peep into the future.
Is that what we call that?
And she pulled up her skirt, and the rest was history. And they all gave themselves the twist that makes peeps into the future easier.
Years have rolled by. And who is this elegant lady of uncertain age alighting at a London station?
Wendy, is she?
Cried Nibs, every bit as excited as if he didn't know.
Can it be? Yes. No. It's the fair Wendy.
Ooh.
And who are the two noble portly figures accompanying her now, grown to man's estate? Can they be John and Michael? Yes. Yes, they are.
See, dear brothers,
Says Wendy, pointing upwards.
there is the window still standing open.
Thank God.
Ah,
Ah.
I
now
like it when the window's open.
we are we are rewarded for our sublime faith in a mother's love.
Keep going.
So up they flew to their mummy and daddy, and pen cannot describe the happy scene over which we will draw a veil.
And that was the story, ending as sad as you think it would. And they were pleased with it. as it was their fair narrator herself.
That's right. Hot Pocket.
Everything just as it should be. You see, off we skip like the most heartless fucking things in the world, which is what children are, but so attractive. And we have an entirely selfish time. And then, when we have need of special attention, we nobly return for it, confident that we shall be rewarded instead of smacked on the ass.
Wow.
So great indeed was their faith in a mother's love that they felt they could afford to be a callous for a bit longer. But there was one who knew better, and when Wendy finished, he uttered a hollow groan.
What is it, Peter?
She cried, running to him, thinking he was ill. She felt him solicitously, lower down than his chest.
Oh, where is it, Peter? Where is it?
It isn't that kind of pain.
Peter replied very, very darkly.
Then what kind is it?
Oh, Wendy, you're wrong about the mothers.
They all gathered round him in affright. So alarming was his agitation, and with a fine candor, he told them what he had hitherto concealed.
Oh, long ago, he said, I thought that, like my mother would always keep the window open for me. So I stayed away for moons and moons and moons, and then flew back. The window was barred, for mother had forgotten all about me, and there was another little boy sleeping in my bed.
I'm not sure that this was true, but Peter thought it was true, and it scared them.
Are you sure mothers are like that?
Yes, they are.
So this was the truth about mothers, the toads.
Toadies.
Still, it is best to be careful, and no one knows so quickly as a child when he should give in.
Nice baby.
Let's go home, Wendy.
Cried John and Michael together.
Oh, yes.
She said, clutching them.
Not tonight?
Asked the lost boys, bewildered. They knew in what they called their hearts that one could get on quite well without a mother, and that it is only the mothers who think you can't.
Oh, at once.
Wendy replied resolutely.
Resolutely.
Resolutely. Making up words and shit. For the horrible thought had come to her.
Perhaps mother is in half mourning by this time.
This dread made her forgetful of what must be Peter's feelings, just like a woman. And she said to him rather sharply,
Peter, you will make the necessary arrangements.
Oh, if you wish it.
he replied as coolly as if she had asked him to pass the nuts.
The nuts.
Not so much as sorry to lose you between them if she did not mind the parting. He was going to show her, was Peter, that neither did he. But of course he cared very much, and he was so full of wrath and sexual frustration against grown-ups, who as usual were spoiling everything, that as soon as he got inside his tree, he breathed intentionally short, quick breaths at the rate of about 5 a second. He did this because there is a saying in Neverland that every time you breathe, a grown-up dies.
Oh my
And
God.
Peter was killing them off just as fast as his fucking little lungs could go.
Wow.
Then, having given the necessary instructions to the Redskins, racist, he returned to the home where an unworthy scene had been enacted to his absence. Panic-stricken at the thought of losing Wendy, the Lost Boys had advanced upon her threateningly.
It'll be worse than before she came.
We shan't let her go.
Let's keep her prisoner.
I chain her up. In her extremity, an instinct told her to which of them to turn.
Toodles,
She
I
cried.
appeal to you.
Was it not strange? She appealed to Toodles, quite the silliest one. Grandly, however, did Toodles respond. For that one moment, he dropped his silliness and spoke with dignity. I'm just Toodles, he said, and nobody minds me. But the first who does not behave to Wendy like an English gentleman, I will bleed them severely. Jeez.
Well, this took a turn.
That took a turn.
Boy,
He's
that
weird.
escalated quickly.
He drew back his hanger, and for that instant his sun was at noon. The others held back uneasily. Then Peter returned, and they saw at once that they would get no support from him. He would keep no girl in Neverland against her will. It's not what I've heard.
Wendy,
He said, striding up and down.
I have asked the Redskins to guide you through the wood as flying tires you sow.
Thank you, Peter.
Then
He continued in a short, sharp voice of one accustomed to being obeyed.
Tinkerbell, the little slut bag, will take you across the sea. Wake your ass up, Nibs. Wake your fucking ass up.
Nibs had to knock twice before he'd get an answer, though Tink had really been sitting up in bed listening to this crap for some time.
Who are you? How dare you? Go away.
You ought to get up, Tink, and take Wendy on a journey. Of course, Tink had been delighted to hear that Wendy was going, but she was jolly well determined not to be her courier. And she said so in still more offensive language. Then she
I'm not taking that
pretended,
little bitch anywhere.
and then she pretended to be asleep again. She says she won't, Nibs explained, aghast at such insubordination, whereas Peter went sternly up to the young lady's chamber.
Bitch,
He
if you don't
rapped
get your
out.
if you don't get your ass down there, get dressed at once. I'm going to open the curtains and we shall see you in your negligee.
This made her leap to the floor.
You dirty little pervert. Who said I wasn't getting up?
In the meantime, the boys were gazing very forlornly. Geez, I can't say that word. At Wendy, now equipped with John and Michael for the journey. By this time, they were dejected, not merely because they were about to lose her, but also because they felt that she was going off to something nice to which they had not been invited. Novelty was beckoning to them as usual. Crediting them with a nobler feeling, Wendy melted.
That's right, woman.
Oh, dear ones.
She said,
If you will all come with me, I feel almost sure I can get my father and mother to adopt you.
Now, the invitation was meant specifically for Peter, but each of the boys was thinking exclusively only of themselves, and at once they jumped with joy. But they won't think us rather a handful? Nibs asked in the middle of his jump.
Oh, no.
Said Wendy, rapidly thinking it out.
It will only mean having a few beds in the drawing room, and they can be hidden behind the screens on the first Thursdays.
Oh, Peter, can we go?
They all cried imploringly. They took it for granted if they went, he would go also. But really, they scarcely cared. Thus, children are ever ready, when novelty knocks, to desert their dearest ones.
You little fuckwads. All right.
Peter replied with a bitter smile, and immediately they rushed to get their things.
And now, Peter,
Wendy said, thinking she had put everything right.
I am gonna give you your medicine before you go.
Oh, and she loved to give them medicine, and undoubtedly gave him too much.
Oh.
Of course, it was only water, but it was out of a
Uh-huh.
bottle, and she
Uh-huh.
always shook the bottle and counted
That's
the
right.
drops,
Oh,
which gave it a certain medicinal quality.
yeah.
On this
It's
occasion,
medicinal.
however, she did not give Peter his draft,
Oh.
for just as she had prepared it, she saw a look on his face that made her heart sink.
Oh.
Go get your things, Peter.
She cried, shaking.
No.
He answered, pretending indifference.
I'm not going with you, Wendy, you little... You taking all these boys.
Yes, Peter.
No.
To show that her departure would leave him unmoved, he skipped up and down the room, playing galley on his heartless pipes. She had to run around after him, though it was rather undignified.
To find your mother.
She coaxed. Now, if Peter had ever quite a mother, he no longer missed her. He could do very well without one. He had thought them out and remembered only their bad points.
No. No. No.
Until Wendy decisively,
Perhaps she would say I was old and I just want to be a little boy and to have fun.
Oh, but Peter.
No.
and so the others had to be told.
Peter isn't coming.
She couldn't get it up for me.
I gotta go get cake out of the oven. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Is that a euphemism?
Yes, it is.
That and she got to get cake out of them.
The following has been closed caption for the reality impaired.
There it is. Peter not coming. They gaze blankly at him. There's
Yes,
sticks over their
blanks.
backs. What?
It was blanks. That's what
It
it
was
was.
blanks. It was
It was
blanks.
blanks.
Hey, I don't know all about those.
Yeah. And on each side a bundle. Their first thought was that if Peter was not going, he had probably changed his mind about letting them go.
Now, what's another name for a bundle of sticks?
I don't know. Educate us.
Nope, just a bundle of sticks. That's all.
It's just a bundle.
It's the same word that they use over in the UK for a cigarette.
Oh, yes. But he was far too proud for that.
If you mind your mothers.
Mind him or find him.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you will lock them.
The awful cynicism of this made an uncomfortable impression, and most of them began to look rather doubtful. After all, their faces said, were not noodles to want to get. Jesus Christ, I can't read.
Were they not crazy?
Were they not noodles to want to go? Jesus.
Now then, you crazy little sons of bitches. No fuss, no blubbering. Goodbye, Wendy, you slut bag. Here, here's my hand. Take it cheerfully.
Jeez. She had to take his hand, and there was no indication that he would prefer a thimble.
Will you remember about changing your flannels, Peter?
And he probably did need to change his flannels after that, boys. She said, lingering over him. She was always so particular with their flannels.
Oh, yes.
And will you take your medicine?
Just give it to me, Mommy.
That seemed to be everything, and an awkward pause followed, as it does for the people listening to this story. Peter, however, was not the kind that breaks down before other people.
Are you ready, Tinkerbell, you little bitch?
He called out.
Aye.
Then lead the way, woman.
Tink darted up the nearest tree, but no one followed her, for it was at this moment that the pirates had made their dreadful attack upon the redskins. Above, where all had been so still, the air was rent with shrieks and the clash of steel. Below, there was a dead silence. Mouths opened and remained open. Wendy fell to her knees, as you
That's
would
right.
expect. But her arms were extended toward Peter.
That's right.
All arms were extended to him, as if suddenly blown in his face direction. They were beseeching him mutely not to desert them. As for Peter, he seized his sword,
That's
the
right.
same he thought he had slain barbecue with, and the lust of battle was in his eye.
Only his eye.
Only in my eye. I just got a little
eye.
something in my eye.
Lust of battle.
Cheese water will wash right out.
Oh. Did you want to read there for a bit, Kaiser?
Yeah, I'll take over there. There we go. Chapter 12. The children were carried off. The pirate attack had been a complete surprise, a sure proof that the unscrupulous Hook had conducted it improperly. For to surprise redskins fairly is beyond the wit of the white man. By the unwritten laws of the savage warfare, it what is always the redskin who attacks, and with the wiliness of his race, does he does it just before at dawn, at which time he knows the courage of the whites to be at its lowest ebb.
Scared little bitches.
The white man have in the meantime
Listen,
made a
cracker.
rude stock
Just like that.
on the summit of yonder undulating ground, at the foot of which a stream runs, for it is destruction to be too far from the water. What happened to my cousin Leroy? He went swimming, didn't come back. Anyway, they wait the onslaught. The inexperienced ones clutching their revolvers are treading on twigs, but the old hands sleeping tranquilly until just before the dawn. Through the long black night, the savage scouts wriggle, snake-like, among the grass, without stirring a blade. The bushwood closes behind them, as silently as sand into which a mole has dived. Not a sound is to be heard, save when they give vent to a wonderful imitation of the lonely call of the coyote. The cry is answered by the other braves, and some of them do it even better than the coyotes. Meow! Orderly! Oh, sorry, different kind of coyote.
Meep, meep.
Sorry, different coyote. Who are not very good at it. So the chill hours wear on, and the long suspense is horribly trying to the pale face who has to live through it for the first time. That was appropriate.
Right?
But to the trained hand, those ghastly calls and still ghastlier silences are but an imitation of how the night is marching. That this was the usual procedure, was so well known to Hook that in disregarding it, he cannot be excused on a plea of ignorance. The pickaninnies, on their part, trusted implicitly that his honor and whole action of the night stands out in marked contrast to his. They left nothing undone that was consistent with the reputation of their tribe, and with alertness of the senses, which is at once the marvel and despair of civilized peoples, they knew that the pirates were on the island from the moment one of them trod on a dry stick. And in an incredibly short space of time, the coyotes cried again. Every foot of ground between the spot where Hook had landed his forces and the home under the trees was stealthily examined by braves wearing their moccasins with the heels in front. Okay. They found only one hillock that was with a stream at its base, so that Hook had no choice. Here he must establish himself and wait for just before the dawn. Everything being thus mapped out with almost diabolical cunning. The main body of the Redskins folded their blankets around them, and in their phlegmatic manner, that is to them, the pearl of manhood squatted above the children's home, waiting the
What?
cold moment when they should deal pale death by boner. Sorry, I couldn't read that without just like throwing that in. Yeah, I couldn't read that without just sticking that one in there. If you know what I
John
mean.
Holmes just entered the building.
Nice
Real
little
games,
feedback session.
Sarge. Here, dreaming, though wide awake, of the exquisite tortures to which they were put him at break of day, these fighting savages were found by the treacherous Hook. From the accounts afterwards supplied by such of the scouts as escaped the carnage, he does not seem even to have paused at the rising ground, though it is certain that in that gray light he must have seen it. No thought of waiting to the attack appears from first to last to have visited his subtle mind. He would not even hold off till the night was nearly spent. On he pounded and pounded ferociously, slapping that ass with no policy
You won't pound it, do
but
it
to
right.
fall to. Whack that ass. What could the bewildered scouts do, masters as they were of every warlike artifice, save this one, but trot helplessly after him, exposing themselves
Wow.
fatally to view,
Look at
while they
here.
gave pathetic utterance to the coyote cry.
That one sounds wounded.
Was that the coyote or was... Never mind.
He must have found a road runner.
Must have stubbed his toe. I hadn't heard him scream like that since we did it dry.
Oh.
Was Harold Brooks part of this?
I'm not sure I'd have told that.
Ouchie.
Anyway, around the brave Tiger Lily were a dozen of her stoutest warriors, and then suddenly saw the perfidious pirates bearing down upon them. Fell from their eyes then the film through which they had looked at victory. No more would they torture at the stake. For them, the happy hunting grounds was now. They knew it. But as their father's sons, they acquitted themselves. Even then, they had time to gather in a phalanx that would have been hard to break had they risen quickly. But this they were forbidden to do by the traditions of their race. It was written that the noble savages must never express surprise in the presence of the white. Thus, terrible as the sudden appearance of the pirates must have been to them, they remained stationary for a moment, not a muscle moving, as if the foe had come by invitation. Then indeed, the tradition gallantly upheld was seized their weapons, and the air was torn with the war cry. But it was now too late. Yamaha's not here, so I had to do the call.
Do you want me to take over for a bit for you?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay.
It is no part of ours to describe what was a massacre rather than a fight. Thus perished many of the flower of the Pickaninny tribe. Not all avenged did they die. Or unavenged did they die. For the lean wolf fell Alf Mason to disturb the Spanish main no more. And among others who bit the dust were Geo, Scurry, Chass, Turley, and the Alstian Fogarty.
Oh,
Turley
Jim
fell.
Fogarty is gone. No, you can't take out Fogarty.
Poor Fogarty.
Turley fell to the tomahawk of the terrible panther, who ultimately cut a way through the pirates with Tiger Lily and a small remnant of the tribe. To what extent Hook is to blame for his tactics on this occasion is for the historian to decide. Had he waited on the rising ground till the proper hour, he and his men would probably have been butchered. And in judging him, it is only fair to take this into account. What he should perhaps have done now was to acquaint his opponents that he had proposed to follow a new method. On the other hand, this, as destroying the element of surprise, would have made his strategy of no avail, so that the whole question is beset with difficulties. One cannot, at least without a reluctance of admiration for the wit that had conceived so bold a scheme, and the fell genius with which it was carried out. What were his own feelings about himself at that triumphant moment? Fain would his dogs have known, as breathing heavily and wiping their cutlasses, they gathered at a discreet distance from his hook and squinted through their ferret eyes at this extraordinary man. Elation must have been at his heart, but his face did not reflect it, ever a dark and solitary enigma. He stood aloof from his followers, in spirit as in substance. The night's work was not over yet, for it was not the redskins he had come to destroy. They were but the bees to be smoked, so that he should get the honey.
That's right. Get the honey.
It was Pan he wanted. Pan and Wendy and their band, but chiefly Pan. Peter was such a small boy that one tends to wonder at a man's hatred of him. True, he had flung Hook's arm to the crocodile, but even this, and the increased insecurity of life to which it led, owing to the crocodile's pertinency, hardly account for a vindictiveness so relentless and malignant. The truth is, there was something about Peter which goaded the pirate in captain to frenzy.
Because he couldn't touch his Peter no more with that hook.
Ouch.
It was not his courage, it was not his engaging appearance. It was not. There was no beating around the bush.
That's right.
For we quite know well what it was. And we have got to tell. It was Peter's cockiness.
Called it.
Sorry.
Called it. It's cock. He can touch it with both hands.
This had got on Hook's nerves. It had made his iron claw twitch. Oh my. And at night it disturbed him like an insect. While Peter lived, the tortured man faced what he was, a lion in a cage into which a sparrow had come.
Oh, yeah, multiple times.
Oh, yes. The question now was how to get down the trees, or how to get his dogs down. He ran his greedy eyes over them, searching for the thinnest ones. They wriggled uncomfortably, for they knew he would not scruple to ram them down with poles. Oh, my God.
Wow. Is that what they call it back then?
I guess so.
I'd say bugger me, but it sounds like what you're trying to do. Oh, my God. In the meantime, what of the boys? What have seen them at the first clang of weapons turned, as it were, into stone figures, open-mouthed and appealing with outstretched arms to Peter? And we return to them. As their mouths close and their arms fall to their sides, the pandemonium above has ceased almost as suddenly as it arose, passed like a fierce gust of wind. But they know that in the passing, it has determined their fate. which side had won. Carry on.
The pirates, listening avidly at the mouths of the trees, heard the question put by every boy and lass. They also heard Peter's answers. If the Redskins have won, he said, they will beat the tom-tom. It is always their sign of victory. Now Smee had never found the tom-tom and was at that moment sitting on it.
You will never hear a tom-tom again,
He muttered, but the inaudibility, of course, for the strict silence had been enjoined. To his amazement, Hook signed him to beat the tom-tom, and slowly there came to Smee an understanding of the dreadful wickedness of the order. Never probably had the simple man admired Hook so much. Twice Smee beat upon his instrument and then stopped to listen gleefully.
Peter.
Oh, the tom-tom. The miscreants heard Peter cry, an Indian victory. The doomed children answered with a cheer that was music to the black hearts above, and almost immediately they repeated their goodbyes to Peter. This puzzled the pirates, but all their other feelings were swallowed by a base delight that the enemy were about to come up the trees. They smirked each other and rubbed their hands. Rapidly and silently, Hook gave his orders, one man to each tree and the others to arrange themselves in a line 2 yards apart. And we are at chapter 13. What do you believe in fairies?
Do you believe in
Yes.
fairies? I totally believe in fairies.
Yes.
Now
Yes,
here,
Queen.
the more quickly this here whore is disposed of, the better. The first to emerge from this tree was Curly. Well, now he rose up out of that there tree with the arms of a gecko, who flung at him to Smee, who flung to him to Starkey, who flung to him Bill Jukes, who flung him to the Noodler, and so he was tossed from one to the other until he fell at the feet of that there black pirate. All the boys in there were plucked up from them there trees in a ruthless manner, and several of them were in the air at that same time, like bales of goods flung from hand to hand. A different treatment was accorded to Wendley, who came last. With ironical politeness, Hook raised his hat to her and, offering her his arm, escorted that little woman out to the spot where the others were begging to be gagged. She did with such an air, he was so frightfully disingenuous, that she was too fascinated to cry out. She was only a little girl, mind you. Perhaps it is telltale to divulge that for a moment Hook had entranced her. We tell her only because her slip led to strange result. Had she heartily unhanded him, and we should have loved to write it of her, she would have been hurled through the air like the others, and then Hook would have probably not have been present at the time of the children, and had not been at the time, he would not have discovered Slightly's secret. He was wearing them special little pants, and without the secret, he could not presently have made his foul attempt on Peter's life. They were tied to prevent their flying away, doubled up with their knees close to the ears. Sounds pretty weird. And for the trusting of them, that their black pirate had cut a rope into 9 equal pieces, because he could count, and went all well until Slightly's turn came, when he found to be like those irritating parcels that use up all the string and going round, leave no tags on which they had to tie a knot. The pirates, well, they done kicked them in their rage, just as you kicked that little son, kick the parcel, though in fairness you should kick the string. And it's strange to say it was Hook who told them to belay that their violence. His lip was curled with malicious triumph, while his dogs were merely sweating, because every time they tried to pack the unhappy lad tight in one part, he bulged out in another. Where the Hook's
Oh, my.
mastermind had gone far beneath Slightly's service, probing not for effects, but for causes. He was just poking him, and his exultation showed that he had found them Slightly white to the gills. Knew that Hook had surprised his little secret, which was this, that no boy so blown out could use a tree wherein as average men need stick. Poor Slightly, almost wretched of all them their children now, for he was in a panic about Peter. He bitterly regretted that he had done madly addicted to the drinking of that there water when he was hot. He had swelled in consequence of his present girth, and instead of reducing himself to fit his tree, he had, unknown to the others, whittled his tree to make it fit him. Well, sufficient of this Hook guessed to persuade him that Peter at last lay at his mercy, but no word of the dark design that now formed in that there subterranean caverns of his mind crossed his lips. He merely signed that the captives were to be conveyed to that there ship, and that he would be alone. How to convey them? Hunched up in their ropes, they might indeed be rolled down the hill like barrels or just kicked about like a hockey puck, but most of all the way lay through a morass. Again, Hook's genius surmounted them their difficulties. He indicated that the little house must be used as a conveyance. Well, them the little bastards, they were flung into it, 4 stout pies raised up on them their shoulders, and others fell in behind, and singing the hateful pirate chorus that strange procession set off through the wood. I don't know whether any of them their children was crying. If so, the singing drowned out the sound. But as the little house disappeared in the forest, a brave thought, though tiny jet of smoke issued from its chimney as if it was defying Hook. When Hook saw it, and it did Peter a bad service, it dried up any trickle of pity for him that may have remained in that there pirate's infuriated breast. The first thing he did on finding himself alone in the fast-falling night was to tiptoe to Slightly's tree and make sure that it provided him with a passage, and then for long he remained brooding. Well, his hat of ill omen on the sod, and any gentle breeze that had risen might play refreshingly through his hair. Dark as it was his thoughts, his blue eyes were as soft as the periwinkle. Intently he listened for any sound from the netherworld, but all was as silent below as above. The house under that there ground seemed to be but one more empty tenement in the void. Was that boy asleep, or did he stand waiting at the foot of Slightly's tree with his dagger in his hand? Well, shit, there's no way of knowing save by going on down while Hook let his cloak slip softly to the ground, and then biting his lips till the lewd blood stood on them. Well, that man, he stepped into that there tree. He was a brave man, but for a moment he had to stop there, wipe his brow, which was dripping like a candle, then silently he let himself go down into that there unknown. He arrived unmolested at the foot of the shaft.
Wow.
Or he stood
Sure
still
about that?
again. He was biting at his breath, which had almost left him. His eyes became accustomed to the dim light and various sexual objects, and then their home under them, their trees, took shape. But the only one on which his greedy eyes rested, long sought for and found at last, that was a great bed. And on that there bed lay Peter, fast asleep. Unaware of that tragedy being enacted above, Peter had continued for a little time after the children left to play gaily on his pipes. The homo. No doubt rather a forlorn attempt to prove to himself that he didn't give no shits. And then he decided not to take his medicine so as to get Wendy all pissy. But then he lay down on that bed outside that coverlet to vex her even more, for she had always tucked them inside it. Not tonight, because you never know that you may not grow chilly at the turn of the night. Well, then he nearly cried, but it struck him how indignant she would be if he laughed instead. So he laughed a hearty laugh and fell asleep right in the middle of it. Well, sometimes, though not often, he had dreams, and they were more painful than the dreams of the other boys. Now, for hours he could not be separated from these dreams, though he wailed piteously in them. He had to. I think with the riddle of his existence, at such times it had been Wendy's custom to take him out of bed, sit him on her lap, and just soothing him in the dear ways of her known invention. I'd never been touched like that before. And when he grew calmer, she would put him back to bed before he quite woke up so that he should not know of the indignity to which she had subjected him. She was draining him dry, but on this here occasion he had fallen at once into that dreamless sleep. One arm dropped over the edge of the bed, one leg was arched, and the unfinished part of his laugh was stranded on his mouth, which was open, showing the little pearls that was left on his mouth. Thus defenseless Hook found him. He stood silently at the foot of the tree, looking across the chamber at his enemy. Did no feeling of compassion disturb this hombre beast? Oh, somber, sigh. I thought it said hombre. The man was not wholly evil. He loved flowers, well, I've been told, and sweet music. He was himself no mean performer on the harpsichord, and let it be frankly admitted, the idyllic nature of the scene stirred him profoundly. That sounds perverted. Mastered by his better self, he would have returned reluctantly up that there tree, but for one thing. What stayed him was Peter's impertinent appearance as he slept. That little son of a bitch had his mouth open, a drooping arm, the arched knee. There was such a personification of his cockiness as, taken together, will never again, one may hope, be presented to the eyes so sensitive to their offensiveness.
Sounds like
They-
OnlyFans.
I'm telling you. Well, they steeled Hook's heart. If his rage had broke him into 100 pieces, every one of them would have disregarded the incident and left it at their sleeper. Though a light from one lamp shone dimly on that bed, Hook stood in the darkness by himself and first stealthily stepped forward. He discovered an obstacle, the door of Slightly's tree. It did not entirely fill the aperture, and he had been looking over it, feeling for the catch. He found to his fury that it was low down, beyond his reach. To his disordered brain, it seemed that the irritating quality in Peter's face had figured visibly increased, and he rattled at that door, flung himself against it. Was his enemy to escape him after all? But what was that? The red in his eye had caught sight of Peter's medicine standing on a ledge within easy reach. He fathomed what it was straightway, and immediately knew that the sleeper was in his power. Lest he should be taken alive, Hook always cared about his person, a dreadful drug, blended by himself of all the death-dealing rings that he had come into his possession. These had been boiled down to yellow liquid, quite unknown to that their science at the time, which was probably the most virulent poison in existence. Well, 5 drops of this he now added to Peter's cup. His hand shook, but it was exulting rather than in shame. As he did it, he avoided glancing at that there sleeper, but not less pity should unnerve him, merely to avoid the spilling, with one long gloating look he cast upon that there victim, and turning wormed his way with difficulty up that there tree. As he emerged at the top, he looked at the very spirit of evil breaking from its hole. Donning his hat at its most rakish angle, he wound his cloak around him, holding one end in front as if to conceal his person from the night, and which was the blackest part, and muttering strangely to himself, he stole away through them there trees. Well, now Peter, he slept on. The light guttered and went out, leaving the tenement in darkness, but still he slept. He must have been not less than 10 o'clock by that there crocodile when he suddenly sat up in that there bed, waking up by he knew not what. It was a soft, cautious tapping on the door of his tree. Soft and cautious, but in that stillness it was sinister. Peter felt for his dagger till his hand gripped it. Then he spoke. "Who that?" For long there was no answer. Then again the knock. "Who that be?" No answer. Well, he was thrilled, and he loved being thrilled. In 2 strides, he reached the door. Unlike Slightly's door, it filled the aperture, so that he could not see beyond it, nor could no the one knocking see him. "I ain't gonna open it unless you speak." Then at last the visitor spoke in a lovely, bell-like voice.
Let me in, Peter.
Oh, yeah, it was Tink. Oh, yeah, he quickly unbarred that door to her. She flew in all excitedly. Her face was flushed, and her dress was all stained with, well, we think it was mud. "What is it, woman?"
Oh, you could never guess.
She cried and offered him 3 guesses. "With a woman," he shouted in one ungrammatical sentence, as long as the ribbons that conjurers pulled from their mouths. She told of the capture of the Wendys and the boys. Well, Peter's little heart bobbed up and down as he listened. Wendy bound and on a pirate ship, she who loved everything to be just so. I'll rescue her, he cried, leaping at his weapons. He leapt, he thought of something he could do to please her. He could take his medicine. His hand closed on the fatal draught.
No!
Shrieked Tinker Bell, who had heard Hook mutter about his deed as he sped through the forest. Well, why not, woman?
Well, it's poisoned.
Poison! Well, who now could have done poisoned it?
Hook.
Woman, don't you be silly now. How could have Hook done got down there? Alas, Tinker Bell could not explain this, for even she did not know the dark secret of Slightly's tree. Nevertheless, Hook's words had left no room for doubt that their cup was poison. Besides, said Peter, quite believing in himself, I never fell asleep, woman. He raised at that cup. No time for words now, time for deeds. And with one of her lightning movements, Tink got between his lips, oh yeah, and the draught and drained it to the dregs. Why, Tink now, woman, how dare you drink my medicine? Oh, but she did not answer. Already she was reeling in the air. What's the matter with you, woman? Cried Peter, suddenly afraid.
It was poison, Peter.
She told him softly.
And now I'm going to be dead.
Oh, Tink, you dumb woman. Why did you drink that to save me?
Yes.
Well, why, woman? Why? Wings scarcely carried her now, but in reply she alighted on his shoulder and gave his nose just a nice little loving bite. She whispered in his ear.
You silly ass.
And then tottering to her chamber, that woman done laid down on that there bed, while his head almost filled the fourth wall of her little room as he knelt near her in distress. Every moment her light was growing fainter, and he knew that if it went out, she would be no more. She liked his tears so much that she put out her beautiful finger and let them run over it.
Oh,
Damn.
wow.
Wow, she likes him there, salty tears. Well, her
Mhm.
voice was so low that at first he could not make out what she said. Then he made it out. She was saying that she thought she could get well again if the children believed in fairies. Well, Peter, at this, he flung out his arms. There were no children there, and it was night time. But he addressed all who might be dreaming in the Netherland, and who were therefore nearer to him than you think, boys and girls in their nighties and naked papooses, and their baskets hung from them their trees. Do you believe? Tink sat up in bed almost briskly, listening to her fate. She fancied she had heard answers in the affirmative, and then again she wasn't sure.
What do you think?
If you believe, he shouted to them, clap your hands. Don't you let Tink die. Our ass is coming back for you. And he clapped. Some didn't. A few bees hissed. That their clapping stopped suddenly, as if countless mamas had rushed to their nurseries to see what on the hell was happening on the earth. But already Tink was saved. First her voice grew strong, then she popped up out of that bed, then she was flashing through the room, more merry and impudent than ever. She never thought of thanking those who believed, but she would have liked to get the ones who had hissed.
And now we rescue Wendy.
Oh, that there moon was riding in a cloudy heaven when Peter rose from his tree, begirt with weapons and wearing little else, to set out upon his perilous quest. He was out there in a thong, and he was ready to raring to go. It was not such a night as he would have chosen. He had hoped to fly, keeping not far from the ground, so that nothing unwanted would have escaped his eyes. But that little fitful light would have flown low, would have meant trailing his shadow through the trees, thus to pissing off them their birds and acquainting a watchful foe that he was astir. He regretted now that he had given them their birds of the island such strange names that they were very wild and difficult little sons of bitches to approach. There was no other course but to press forward in a redskin fashion, at which happily he was an adept. But what their direction would he be going? For he could not be sure that them their children had been taken to a ship. A light fall of snow had obliterated all them there footmarks, and a deathly silence pervaded the island, as if for a space nature stood still in horror of the recent carnage. He had taught them their children something of the forest lore that he himself had learned from that their sweetheart Tiger Lily and that lovely little Tinkerbell, and knew that in their dire hour that they were not likely to forget it. Slightly, if he had an opportunity, would blaze the trees. For instance, Curly would drop them their seeds, and Wendy would leave her handkerchief at some important place. Without morning was needed to search for such guidance, and he could not wait. The upper world had called him, but would give no help. That there crocodile passed him, but not another living thing, not a sound, not a movement. Yet he knew well that the sudden death might be at the next tree or stalking him from behind. He swore his terrible oath. Hooker me this time. Now he crawled forward like a little snake, just got all erect, and he darted across that there space on which the moonlight played, one finger on his lip and his dagger at the ready. He was frightfully happy. Weirdo.
Odd.
Odd, but he was frightfully happy. Now we move on to the next chapter. Oh my.
Chapter 14.
Yeah. It is getting to that time where we are not going to make it through chapter 14. You know
No.
it's not going to happen.
No, there ain't no way.
No. No way.
Oh my gosh.
It's gonna be a long one.
Yeah.
This is a long book. I didn't realize how difficult it was.
Hey, either.
God.
Or what a fever dream it was.
Right?
How did you find this book? Where did you find this book?
It's called
This
Peter
is
and
the
Wendy.
original Peter Pan book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
public
original.
domain.
This is weird.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
dude.
Most of the stuff that we find is weird.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
is
didn't
this
know these
like is
people
this
were
like
so
a fan made
depraved.
book or like
No, this is the actual written by the original author.
Yeah. This is the original story.
That's weird AF.
Yeah. Oh, and trust me, you missed it the last time whenever like there was a whole section of the book. It was like just the writer went off on a tangent
Mm-hmm.
and it was completely unrelated to everything going on.
It was sort of like reading what was that? What was the name of that? Where Bateman, what's his name, played American Psycho. It was like reading American Psycho where he has a whole chapter dedicated to Huey Lewis in the news.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, what the hell?
What?
Like what does this mean? What does this mean? Nothing.
I don't think it has any meaning at all.
Very little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What an
think
evening. What an evening.
He was tripping balls when he wrote it. That's what I
He
think.
must have been.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah. Oh,
How on
must been
earth
doing
did
a
you
lot of
ever think
opium
this
back
was a
then or something.
children's book? How could you read this to a kid? I mean,
Yeah.
that would be
right?
be scary shit.
Well,
I mean, you
Kids
read
weren't
this
such
with a
pansies
modern
back when they
eye
wrote
and you're
this,
like, yeah,
so.
this guy needs to be in a mental hospital.
Yeah. So strange.
Timeless classic is the word that they use now.
No, it's like he includes bits of dialogue in there that I'm like, do you hate children?
That's what
Right.
it seems like. It seems like he's got something against kids. I mean, was it it's just weird.
Yeah, it's so weird.
yeah, so
Audio-
Peter Pan is the boogeyman pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, Peter Pan actually is a demon. I mean, if you go back to the original folklore, you know who Pan is. Well, that is who Peter Pan is supposed to be. He is the
Trickster.
God,
Mhm.
trickster,
mischief.
Pan, the
Like
god of
Loki.
mischief.
Yeah.
Loki. And he's and the lore basically surrounds on all of this that Captain Hook was the original one of the Lost Boys. And that he took his arm and made him stay there, and he never got to know his mother or his parents. And Pan, which is never aging ever at any point in time, stays the same age or whatever age he wants to be, has basically lured all these children to be like his companions, but he wants his own children, so that's why he grabbed a hold of Wendy. And he actually, in some other tales, he goes to visit Wendy on a regular basis and take her children. She becomes his base. What do you call it? A breeder. Yeah, she becomes his breeder.
Breeder.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so she basically keeps him in a long supply of lost boys, because they do age out after a period of time. That's what happened with
Yeah.
Hook. He aged out.
It literally goes into detail one point where he basically, when the boys get to certain age, he just takes them out in the woods and just kills them.
Yeah, pretty
Well,
much.
what a happy story.
Oh, it's lovely.
Right?
It's a lovely story.
That's why the movie
Oh.
Hook is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it says reading the original stories are so strange compared to the watered down versions were told by Disney. Grimm's stuff is just as bad, as well as
Oh,
true
yeah.
Bible stories
Yeah.
versus the childhood versions.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I like-
a lot of people go, "Oh, Noah's Ark, wonderful! They saved all the animals." It's just like
No, that's not quite how that went.
that's not really how it went. They just took some animals with them. I mean, they needed food for 30 days and 30 nights, but hey, they might have like drowned the rest of the fucking world. How's that? Wonderful. Ah. Oh, yes. Aged out sounds like and it does sound like that. It was just sort of creepy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess it does sort of. Yeah, Pan was a little bastard, just a demon. So
You're expired. Come with me.
yeah.
Mhm.
Hey,
Let's go
Hey,
take a walk in the woods.
let's go
Look
take
at
a
the
walk in the
flowers,
woods.
Lizzie.
You remember how
Let's
I
have a
taught you not?
talk.
You remember how I didn't teach you how to swim? Well, I'm going to teach you how to swim today. Hey, crocodile.
Here, take this cinder block and jump there.
Here, how about this? I take off one of your arms. Go. Try swimming with one arm. Go for it. So what do you have coming up, Vice baby?
Just random streams here and there. And then, other than that, work, sleep, eat, repeat.
There you go. What about you, Kaiser? Anything coming up?
This week is going to be a little bit hectic. I've got some medical stuff going on at the end of this week, and this is going to be an absolute week of hell, as far as that goes. So, I mean, I might have a few videos
Just
come out
remember to
earlier
drink
this week.
all of the juice. Drink all of the juice. Don't stop. And no matter how many times that you're sitting there going, "Oh God, I wish it would just stop," just keep drinking it. It's fine.
So my doctor tells me.
Take your medicine.
Yeah. Medicine.
Yeah. Anyway, so the otherwise I've got some videos probably coming out here. I know that we need to talk about the fallout from the release of Captain America: Brave New World. Kind of get a little bit of a sky high idea of what that's
Did anybody watch it?
Surprisingly, people did, and it's kind of a weird mix. I'll get more into it, but yeah. That and I'm gonna try. I have put off a particular live stream for like 2 weeks now. I need to finally get it done. I'm gonna try to aim to do that Tuesday night, maybe if I can. Maybe maybe even tomorrow night. I don't know, but yeah, something that's been couple of months in the making. So
Cool.
We'll get to that.
Very cool. What about you, Diva, Volstorm? Anything?
I need to find an Irish person.
Well, I don't be Irish, but I think I might be able to speak the part.
I know an Irish person. You hadn't talked to him yet?
Yes, I have talked to someone who's not Irish, but could be Irish.
Yeah.
But they're not available.
Oh, that's son of a.
I know. Yeah.
I think I might see if I can. I might be able to think of somebody.
Find
See
me
what
an
we can
Irish
do.
person.
I'll see if I can.
It could be male, it could be female, it doesn't matter. I just need them to be Irish.
Need them to be Irish.
Aye, that I do.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we end another Saturday. Sunday. It is Sunday, right? Okay.
is
Yeah,
Sunday.
another
Sunday.
Sunday
Yep.
night because work is coming up.
Sunday.
He'll
This
correct
next
that in
week
the
is
edit.
yeah, this next week is going to be crazy for me. So just be aware that it's going to be crazy. Always is. Everybody have a wonderful night. We will see you later.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night
Bye.
now.
Peace.
I love a buttered biscuit. Let your body sway, baby. My voice has you gliding. Feel it. Whispers in your ear. Feel the thrill as they're colliding. Steamy tone, sultry breeze. Oh, it's got you mesmerized. Follow the sound, darling. I'll touch you where it tantalizes. Ooh, feel it, baby, nice and slow. Yeah, yeah. I let your rhythm consume my soul. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Listen to my song. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Listen to my surrender. Now that feels so soft and oh so tender. Need you to ring my bell, baby, yeah. Hear my moans echo in your ear. Feel the tempo rise and promises laid bare. Rise, rise, my voice is calling, voice enthralling. Touch my body. Everywhere. Ooh, feel it, baby, nice and slow. Yeah, yeah. I let your rhythm consume my soul. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Listen to my sweet surrender. Now that feels so soft and oh so tender. So listen close, my love. Let my voice take you on.